Okay, guys. Bruchim habayim. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. We are continuing the study of Halachot Shabbat, continuing from last week, which we began the laws of borer, the laws of sorting, selecting, and everything that is involved in that, sifting. These are very important. Halachot that come up a lot in the preparation of food, in other areas too, that are non-food related, which B'ezras Hashem will get to as well. So therefore, we have a lot of things to talk about, but let's just remember the general rules. We'll refresh our memory from last week. There are three important rules that we have to remember. First of all, borer is a melacha that the purpose of this melacha is to fix mixtures. When you have a mixture of things, one of which, let's say if there are two things mixed together, and one of those two are undesired, unwanted, so we call that undesired and unwanted thing the psolet, the waste, the garbage, the junk, that which we are not interested in. And that could be something which for other people is fantastic. The example we gave is nuts and raisins, right? Some people have a mixture of nuts and raisins. They love nuts, they hate raisins, for example, or vice versa. So for them, raisins are a big problem. So they look at raisins as psolet, as garbage. So to go and take out the psolet is a problem. That's called psolet mitoch ochel, right? That's removing the junk from the good. Bad news, no good. Cannot do that on Shabbat. You have a question?
Sorry.
Yes. The peanut out of what?
That's good.
Oh, very good. So what are the conditions to what you can do on Shabbat? So we said there are three conditions. Number one, it has to be the ochel. You have to take out the food that you want or the item that you want. Number two, it has to be done beyad, which means without the use of a vessel, a utensil. For example, a sieve, a sifter, any kind of funnel, any kind of tool, even a very large bowl that could be used to separate things that are mixed from one another. For example, if there's a liquid or a big pot of soup, and you want to separate the, let's say you don't want any of the broth inside. So you use this big bowl or the big pot of soup to get rid of the liquid and to keep the solid there. So that would be an act of borer by use of a tool. It's not a tool that's meant for that, but it's still a tool and therefore rabbinically prohibited. So what could you do instead? You want to get that piece of chicken, so take it biyad, which means with something that would be either your hand or an extension of your hand, like a fork, a spoon, etc. But not using a bowl to separate the two or a pot to separate the two, because that would be using a tool. Okay, and condition number three, it has to be miyad. It has to be right away. So again, ochel biyad miyad. Miyad means right away. You cannot separate, even if you're taking the good from the bad, with your hand. You're not using a tool. You cannot do that for a later time. So the example we gave last week is if a person, let's say, wants to have it ready, let's say the bowl of nuts and raisins, and the person wants the nuts and hates the raisins. So they're doing everything properly. They take the nuts, which is the good, they leave behind the bad. They do it with their hand, not using a tool. But instead of it being for the purposes of eating it right now or in the immediate future, it's being done for tomorrow morning. That, according to all opinions, is borer because it's not being done for right now. Clear? According to most opinions, at least in Shulchan Aruch holds like that. Okay? Yes, we have a question.
I remember last week you said something about an orange and peeling it, and that you have to peel it to eat it right away.
Correct.
Why?
Okay, so peeling fruit is perfectly fine. You're allowed to peel fruit on Shabbat in order to eat the fruit. Want to peel a banana to eat the banana, no problem. Peel an orange to eat the orange. If you don't like the peel of an apple, you want to peel the apple to eat the apple, no problem. The rule is that when you peel something, so we don't view that as an act of borer, because, meaning even though you could ask it like this, you could say, wait a second. You're taking the stuff that you don't want from the stuff that you do want. So that's a problem, you would say, right? I don't want the peel, and I'm taking away the peel. So that's solet mitoch ochel, big problem. Halacha says no. This is how you eat a banana, and this is how you eat an orange. You can't eat the orange with a peel. You have to remove the peel and then eat the orange. And the key words that we used last week to explain this is called, it's derech achila. It's the way of eating. That's the way of eating. We won't look at it as an act of separating mixtures, but rather we look at it as an act of eating. This is an act of, I'm just trying to eat a banana. I'm trying to eat an orange, right?
But peeling eggs is different.
Okay, one second. Let's leave the eggs. Let's leave the eggs. I know the eggshells comes up a lot, I know. But let's leave that for a later discussion. We get to muktzeh, we're going to talk about the eggshells. All right, so, but the concept is true, that to peel the eggshells as far as borer is concerned, is derech achila, and it's in order to get to the eggs, and that's why it's allowed as far as borer is concerned. Okay, so yes, you have a question.
You gave an example of using a bowl to separate something.
Yes.
How do you put it on?
Big bowl, mixture of liquid and solids on the bottom. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm using the bowl, I'm tilting the bowl to keep the solids in and to get the liquid out, right? And I get all the liquid out by using that bowl as a mechanism. That would be using the bowl as a tool to separate the liquids and the solids. So what you would do instead is you would simply take the solids with your hand or with a spoon. Yeah, ladle, right? Exactly. Very good. Yes.
Let's say the stew and you just want meat. So you steep it and then you get a mixture of everything, pour it out, and then just
So you want just the meat?
yeah.
Okay. So this is a very good question, and we're going to address it a little bit later because there's another discussion which kind of touches on what we learned last week, but we'll get to that. We'll talk about it very soon. Yes.
Sorry, I missed it. If it's derech achila, then you do have to eat it right now or no?
Okay, so yes, so getting back to her question. Although we said it's derech achila and therefore it's permissible, the truth of the matter is that you are separating one thing from the other. And therefore, that last requirement that it should be for right away still takes effect. So for that reason, if you want to separate, let's say, the peel from the banana, remove the banana peel, you would need to eat that banana right now. You can't have that banana tomorrow morning. You can't, let's say, freeze bananas for the morning, right? You have to peel it and eat it. Okay?
Making a fruit platter for dessert.
Correct. You cannot make the fruit platter for the following day, right?
No, for the end of the meal, but it's more than half an hour.
So if it's during the meal, then it's for right now, it's fine.
Okay,
Right?
It could be like an hour or two later.
So you usually have like an hour. That's the lenient opinion. You have about an hour to
But
make
it's
that.
it's more than an
I
hour.
thought if it's for the
So you
whole
shouldn't do it
meal-
before the men
Once you
leave
wanna-
shul.
Oh,
Once the
yeah.
men leave shul, then you can do it.
I guess like let's say for lunch, like Shabbat lunch.
Yeah.
um,
You should do it
you
when
make
the
your
men leave
salads
shul.
and your fruit platter when your guests come, so like then you don't have to do it later.
I understand. It's good to feel,
Organized.
prepared and organized. So, but the restriction is, at least like the most you have is an hour beforehand. At least that's what the Sephardic poskim say. But you know,
Melon and things like that, you just like,
what?
but you could do the melons and things like that.
You
That's
can,
not pouring it.
so you can cut the melon, right?
Yeah.
About an hour before, right?
Melons also.
Yeah. Yeah,
All foods.
because you're getting rid of the peel. You're getting rid of, it has to be for right now.
You could also just get it prepared already.
That's true. That's true.
That way you don't,
That's
then
true
you just
too.
put everything together.
But yeah, but that's the idea. The poskim say you have about an hour to do it.
I
So
always thought it's for the meal. Like, let's say like half hour to the meal and however long the meal takes. for
correct,
example.
the meal. That's what we're talking about, the meal.
So if dessert is 3 hours later, like you're
We're
preparing for
talking
that.
about the meal. We're talking about the meal. I want to clarify. I'm not talking about the timing of dessert. If let's say dessert is an hour after you begin the meal, you don't have to do it exactly when you start the meal. You can do it at the beginning of the meal. That's as far as I understand, the beginning of the meal. What?
You could cut the fruit a half hour before.
Correct.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, so,
Right.
so if dessert is.
If dessert is a couple
Hanging
hours
out,
later, as
yeah,
far as I know,
that's
you're still okay because you're doing it before the meal. That's the
Right,
point.
so you could do it.
Okay.
It just.
No, but
not in
the point,
morning.
the language that the poskim uses when the men leave shul. You understand?
Okay, so like
Because
at 8
then
o'clock,
you're in the zone for the meal. You understand?
like 8 a.m.
No, when they're coming.
When
home.
no, when they are
When
coming
they come
home
home.
from shul, not when they leave to shul. When they come home from shul. Yeah. Okay. That's what I saw some of the poskim say. Okay. Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, so like Friday night, I was preparing like a salad, and I genuinely wanted to eat that salad then, but I knew I was making an amount that I could not possibly eat at once, and that it would be left over for the rest of Shabbat.
And it was just you. Like, were there guests?
No, it was like later in the night, and like I was like in the mood to make a salad, but I wanted to make it like a huge salad so I could eat it throughout all Shabbat. So I purposefully made it bigger. I ate a little bit of it, but then I put it in the fridge. Is that
Great
okay?
question. Poskim say that ideally you should do what is feasible for you to eat. Whereas you shouldn't make a fruit platter, let's say, even if it's right now, that's a tremendous size that's overwhelming. You can't eat it. It's definitely being done for later. They do say that. It's a good
Oh,
point.
wait, this is also the salad. You're peeling the cucumber.
Yeah, if you have guests coming over and you want to present a night, you're not going to present like a portion and a portion. And you know what I'm saying? It's like you make a nice salad so that it's nice and available for the guests.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
if you want to make a fruit platter and salads, which is when the men are leaving shul. So also salad.
So salad,
peeling
okay, so
cucumber.
the point about the fruit platter is that you need to separate the peel from the fruit.
And the cucumber,
What do you mean the cucumber?
you have to peel.
You want to peel cucumbers?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about
With a knife.
let's talk about peeling vegetables.
Or
So
avocados.
1 second. It's important to be aware of something we learned last week. Whenever you maintain a mixture, okay, this is category 2 of peeling. We just spoke about category 1, which is when you have a banana and an orange where the peel comes off, right? And it's separate from the fruit on the inside. However, there are some things that when you peel them, you actually take part of the fruit together with the peel, unless you're like very skilled and are really working on making sure that the peel is totally separate from the fruit. But I think the average guy, let's say that peels an apple, there's some of the apple coming off with the peel, unless you know how to peel much better. You know what I'm saying? No? What's the standard mode of peeling? Does part of the fruit come off or no? Part of the fruit comes off. Okay. So then apples, usually it comes off, right? So in that case, you have a beautiful, beautiful heter. And you could even do it for later. Why? Because there's no borer happening. The peel is still with the fruit. It's just on a smaller quantity. Because the peel is still together with some of the fruit. So if that's what you're doing, then there's no problem. So if you decide you want to peel apples for later, okay, no problem, because the peel is together still with the fruit, just on a much smaller quantity. And anything that would be like that would be the same thing. You understand? So if, let's say it'd be a tomato that you're peeling. I mean, again, it's not so common, but that would be something that falls into this category. Yes.
So what if my salad had no peeling? I was just chopping.
Okay, so again, the whole thing that we're talking about when you're talking about for later is only when you had an item that was mixed with something else, you sorted that item away from the other stuff that you didn't want, and that act of sorting is now, instead of being done for now, being done for later. That's a problem, because you selected it now, but not for this moment, you selected it for later. But if to begin with it was not mixed with anything, then there's no problem.
So you can prepare Friday night for Saturday if you're not doing it.
If you're not doing any borer or any type of selecting or sorting and things like that. Now, I want to share with you the discussion about a peeler. Okay, the poskim talk about whether or not you can use a peeler on Shabbat. And the answer, of course, is that it is a machloket. There are two opinions. But you should know that the opinion of Harav Ovadia alav hashalom is that one may use a peeler on Shabbat. There is a leniency that he provides, and he says that it is permissible to use a peeler on Shabbat. There are others who disagreed with that, but it is technically permissible. If you would like to use that leniency, it is there. I'll read you the Halacha here. מותר לקלף פירות וירקות במקלף המיוחד לכך. The Yalkut Yosef held like that. Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul held like that you're allowed to peel with a peeler. The Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata argued, which is a very important posek. Yesh Cholkim, and the Yalkut Yosef himself ends up coming out that if somebody wants to be strict in this area, he deserves to be blessed. But again, the leniency is there. Let's say somebody just can't. They never developed that skill of peeling with a knife. They need a peeler. Okay, you have what to rely on. You have the leniency of Harav Ovadia alav hashalom. Yes.
So if you leave a piece of a fruit or a vegetable on the peel when you cut, is that a better way of cutting for Shabbat?
There's no question that that's not an act of Borei at all, because they're still mixed together, right? I'll give you another example where this comes
Because I
up.
usually do that thinking that it's probably better to do that. So is that?
It's better in the sense that it's not Borei at
for
all.
Shabbat, I think so
Yeah.
that for that.
Yeah, I'll give you another example where this comes up. Let's say you have an apple that you take a bite and you see that part of the apple is like a really, really brown, and it's like not, you don't want to eat it, or it's like it's gotten old. You want to just take a knife and just chop off that part of the apple. So that would be okay. Why? Because you're not chopping off just the little brown part. You're chopping off a big chunk of it, and therefore it's going together. The bad part is going together with the good part, and it's still mixed together. So that's good. That would be a perfect way of doing it. Yes.
If you open a can of like pickles or corn or olives or whatever.
That's a good one. That's a good one. It's a good one. Okay. So the question was, what about a can of pickles, a can of olives, a can of corn, maybe a can of tuna, right? So cans in and of themselves is already a huge discussion, which B'ezras Hashem will get to whether or not you can open them up as we move along through the Melachot of Shabbat. But let's assume maybe they're already opened, maybe they're whatever, you open them in a permissible way, whatever that would be. And now you have this situation where you want to get rid of, let's say, the juice and leave behind the pickles, right? Can you do that? Can you pour the juice out and leave behind the pickles? So this, and the same thing with the stew question with the meat. Remember last week, I want to just bring us back to last week. We spoke about an opinion, which was actually the opinion of the Maharitza Alon, brought down in the Biro Halacha. Maharitza Alon held that there's no such thing as separating a, what's it called? Something solid from something that's a liquid. He said, if let's say a fly falls into your cup of tea, the Maharitza Alon was of the opinion that it may be removed and thrown away. Even though it's a mixture, you say, hey, this is mixed in my tea, it's bad, right? It's taking the bad from the good. He held that a solid that's floating around in a liquid is not halachically called a mixture. Because here's the solid and here's the liquid. It's not a mixture, it's just, this thing is floating around. If you learn like that, then the same would be true for a piece of meat floating around in a soup. The same would be true for what we were just talking about now, pickle inside of a can. It's all the same thing. Because the pickle is just standing there and it's not mixed. So according to that, the pickle, now it's not the same thing for the corn, let's say, that's all floating around, all mixed in, but just an isolated pickle, if you hold like this opinion, which not everybody does, but Harav Ovadia relies on it if you want to. So if you hold like this opinion, then you would not have a problem to spill out this can of juice and leave behind your pickles, because the pickles weren't mixed with the juice in the first place.
You need to get rid of the.
Get rid of the juice. There's no mixture here. That's the understanding of Harav Ovadia based on the Maharitza Alon. So that would be an important thing to realize. Yes.
So then what's the difference between that and a piece of chicken and a clear soup?
the same thing. That chicken, according to this opinion, is not considered to be mixed with the soup. Right? Yeah. That's for sure anyway. But the question is, let's say you want to do it for later. Right? Let's say you want to take the chicken out for 5 hours from now. According to this opinion, you've got no problem whatsoever. Why? Because there's no mixture. Remember, borer only applies when there's a mixture. If there's no mixture, then there's no borer. Oh, very good. A challenge is a mixture. Very good. But again, you have to, it's a kind of tricky subject, but remember the rule. What is borer? What does a borer apply to? Mixtures. If it's not a mixture, then there's no borer at all. Okay? So over here, according to Rav Ovadia, this would be acceptable. I believe the same would apply for olives in a can. But once it starts getting more difficult to isolate smaller pieces, so then already it's considered to be more of a mixture. So perhaps the can of let's say, what's it called? Corn, or let's say tuna, might be a little bit more of a, I don't know, tuna. It's a bit of a tricky subject in this opinion.
So tuna in a jar of olive oil,
Tuna in a can, let's say.
or in a jar of olive oil, you open it up.
So again, the point is that if
Tunas
it's
are like thick steaks.
right, so if it's mixed, then we have a problem to separate. Now remember, I want to just make something clear. 1 second. Now this is all the opinion of the Maritza Alon that held that there is no separation. There's no mixture between solids and liquids. This is a pickle sitting in brine. This is not a mixture. So according to that, where it's clearly defined, there's no mixture. You could spill out the liquid, no problem. However, not everybody agreed to this. And if somebody wants to be strict on it and simply remove the pickle and use it for right now, then there's no question that he's in the clear, and that's okay. So we have any questions? Yeah. What? The corn anyway is more of a problem because it's a little bit smaller. I want to share with you actually a couple of more important halachot in this area. You should know sometimes when you have a mixture of liquids and solids, if let's say you have an overwhelming amount of liquid, let's talk for example about a big pot of soup, and you've got some chicken and some vegetables on the bottom, but overwhelmingly you've got broth, right? So now over here, let's say from here to here is all broth, and on the bottom you've got a little bit of chicken and vegetables and stuff. There's no mixture. The broth on the top is totally separate and totally isolated from the stuff on the bottom. So therefore, if you wanted to, let's say, pour out that soup for later, or if you don't want that soup, there's no mixture. There's no mixture here. So therefore, that top is good. When would it become a mixture? Let's say you got rid of that top, and now you're left with the bottom, and it's mixed. The liquid and all of these solids, all the mushy vegetables, they're all mixed, floating around. Now you have a problem. So if let's say you decide you want those vegetables, and you want to pour out the broth because you want the vegetables only, and you're using the pot, that's a problem. That's a mixture. You understand the difference between the two cases?
So only broth and chicken is okay. Broth, chicken, vegetables, not okay.
One more time. 1 second.
Broth,
Yeah.
chicken,
Yes.
good. Broth.
My point is,
vegetables, chicken.
all I'm saying now is that there are some times where there's just a large amount of liquid and nothing in it. Just large amount of liquid. So it's isolated.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll tell you where this comes up, very important. The tea kettles that have a spout that has a little filter at the end. You know what I'm talking about? A lot of times what they do is they put tea leaves inside of that, and they put water there before Shabbat, but the tea leaves are all on the bottom. They already settled, they're all on the bottom. And now the big question is, I've got this filter on the spout, on the edge of the tea kettle. So the question is, if I pour, so aren't I using a vessel to separate between the tea leaves and the liquid? So the answer is, it depends on the status. I know it gets kind of technical, but it depends on the status of the tea leaves that are in the tea kettle. If the tea leaves are settled on the bottom, so I've got this massive amount of liquid that's hovering on top. When I pour out, it's not the spot doing anything. It's not separated. It's not a mixture. It's all separate already. So there's no mixture, so there's no problem to use that tea kettle with the spout that has that little filtering thing on top. However, let's say somebody shook the tea kettle and now the leaves are all around. So the leaves are mixed into the water. And when I pour out the liquid, the only thing preventing that those leaves from coming out is the spout. So now what happened is I used this tool to separate between the liquid and the leaves. That's a problem. You understand the point?
Anyway, when you start pouring it, it starts going with the liquid. And
Yeah, but it's
stops.
isolated already, meaning it's separate from the tea leaves.
Which what was the name of the rabbi you said that this halacha is on? Like
Which
the
one?
Like the salad and the.
Oh, so that's Chacham Ovadia quoting the Maharit Tzahalon, one of the early Rishonim. This is a very interesting thing. The Chavetz Chaim brings down an argument between two big Sephardic rabbis, the Maram Chaviv and the Maharit Tzahalon. They argued about this halacha. Very interesting thing.
So this is
Where
all
were
this
they
is.
from?
What?
Where were they from?
One was from Sfat in Israel, and
But no, like Morocco? or
no,
Morocco?
Israel, I believe.
Okay.
So
Anyway, the
this is
Chavetz
about
Chaim is quoting them.
Persian-
No, they weren't. No. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that when you have such an overwhelming amount of liquid on top, so then it's not considered to even be mixed with the tea leaves. Now, let's take it to the next level, okay? The idea is like this. The Rama says something very interesting, which we hold Halacha. And that is, first of all, it's just so important to realize how blessed we are, that we have running water that's clean. Even if you are a little finicky and you don't like drinking the tap water, which is understandable, you like to get the, regular, Poland Spring or what have you. The water that we have, generally speaking, is nice and clean. For the most part, you don't get wood chips in your water, put it like that. So the Rama, in his time, was speaking about this exact issue. The water that they used to drink, the drinking water of the people, it had little thin wood chips in it. That's what they would drink. So the question is like this. I'm a little bit picky, and I don't like wood chips in my water. So I want to filter out my water on Shabbat from the wood chips. Reasonable, right?
It's
So
a
the
health-
question,
it's a health concern.
okay. Well, again,
It
the
wasn't-
whole
it
world was
wasn't-
drinking it
It
back
wasn't a
then.
health concern?
Apparently they had adapted to that. It wasn't an issue for them. I'm assuming. So the question is, can this gentleman do that or not? So the Rama says that it's fine for him to sift out the water. And the reason that he gives is because right now, remember, Borer, is all about fixing a mixture. You have something which is desirable, you have something undesirable, and you are not really able to use your water because of the fact that you have something which is really undesirable over here. You need to fix it in order to use it. But in this case, he says we all drink these wood chips every day. That's part of our system. We drink water with wood chips. So he says, technically, this fellow, if he had to do it, he would drink the wood chips. So he wants to give a little bit of an extra pleasure for himself to not have water with wood chips. So he's doing it. But technically, the water is usable. It's not something that he can't use. There's nothing wrong with it. He's just going an extra step in order to make it a little bit more enjoyable for himself, but there's no real solid, that's his point. There's no real bad stuff. So therefore, when you have something that you would drink anyway, and you just want to filter it so that it's a little bit more pristine, no problem, okay? Now you may say to yourself, well, where does this come up? So first of all, let's talk about pouring water into, let's say, a Brita filter, or one of these, what's it called, zero water filters. You pour it in and then it filters, tap water, you pour it in and it comes out. Familiar with what I'm talking about? Yes? Okay. Comes out tasting much better. Can you do that on Shabbat? The answer is that it depends. Would you drink the tap water anyway? If push comes to shove and you were thirsty, would you take a glass, put it under the faucet, open up the water and drink it? If the answer is yes, then it's absolutely no problem for you to put it into a Brita or into a zero water, because you're just making it a little bit better. It's fine as is. There's no psolet here. You just want to enhance it. No problem. You understand? But if, let's say, it's not drinkable, it's just not possible for you to take this and put this in your body. Maybe it's a place like, I don't know, some third world country where it's just not drinkable. You have to do something to fix it. So that would be the Melacha of Borer, because you putting it through the filter is getting rid of the garbage, getting rid of the junk. And therefore, you're doing Borer on Shabbat. It's a problem. You can't do that. You would have to filter your water for Shabbat. Yes.
So let's say generally tap water is not consumed, then you go to someone's home where their whole house is filtered.
Mm-hmm.
Can you use their filtered water, like from their sink? Because it's being filtered when you turn the sink on and you wash your hands.
Oh, so very good. So now let's talk about, it's a great question. Let me preface the answer with this question. In New York City, the water is fantastic. It's really amazing. It tastes good. Everyone drinks the water from the fountain, from the faucet. It's like really amazing. The one question that came up about maybe 15 years ago was the discovery of what they call copepods in the water. Copepods are these little organisms that are bugs, and the claim was that you could see them if you look really carefully. You don't need a microscope, and you're drinking bugs in the water. So your water is treif. That was the big debate amongst the poskim. Rav David Feinstein alav hashalom held that the New York City water must be filtered to this day. That if you don't have a filter on your faucet, you cannot drink the water. Doesn't matter where you are, all 5 boroughs, you must filter your water. That's Rav David. Many poskim held like that as well. My Rabbi alav hashalom, Rabbi Belsky, he argued and he said, no, this is something which is not a problem, and you can drink it straight from the faucet, no filter required whatsoever. Okay, so now, so what people till this day do, they take a little filter, little cloth, little cotton rather, some kind of a filter, I think they call it easy filter. They screw it onto the faucet so that whatever water comes out gets filtered through that little cotton thing. Question is, you change it every so often. So the question is, can you open up the faucet on Shabbat? So the answer is going to depend on who you hold like. If you hold that you're not allowed to drink this water at all, so then if you want to drink it and you're using the filter that you put there in order to drink it, you're doing Borer on Shabbat. You can't do that. You would have to set up your water ahead of time before Shabbat. But if you hold that technically this is drinkable and there's no problem and there's no issue, it's just for a little bit of extra enjoyment. You want it to be a little, you happen to not want bugs there, but not that it's a problem. You would drink the bugs anyway. You drink it all the time. It's just that, that's something which you prefer not to be there, like those wood chips. Okay, so then you don't need to worry about removing your filter. Leave the filter on the sink. Because anyway, there's no real psolet here. There's no real garbage. There's not really a mixture here. It's just me trying to enhance the water. Is it clear? Okay, so now the question I was asked is, so what about me, let's say, opening up the faucet to wash my hands, and I know that there's a filter sitting there. Can I do that? So the answer is many poskim permit it. And the reason that they permit it is based on what we've been saying in the past, which is that it's a davar she'eino mitkaven. You don't have in mind to filter anything. What about the fact that it is getting filtered? You're right that it's getting filtered, but it's going to waste. I'm not trying to drink anything. I'm not trying to get a glass for myself. I'm trying to simply wash my hands. So I'm not actually separating one thing from the other and then retaining a beautiful bug-free glass of water, it's just all going to waste. There's no real act of separating involved. So that's why when you wash your hands, you opened up the water to wash your hands, you wouldn't have a problem, even if the filter is there. Yeah.
What about the like more advanced filters that are like under the sink? And then it has a reserve tank
Okay.
A canine filter?
and you wouldn't drink tap water. Assuming you will not drink the tap water, therefore the filter for you is considered
Okay.
fluoride.
And you have other water that's already filtered, you're saying?
And then the filter that you have has like the reserve, it like puts water in this reserve tank.
Okay.
So that's okay, like before Shabbat, that's been filtered, so you use it. But then if later it gets
Refilled.
refilled,
So it continues getting filtered over Shabbat.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying?
yeah,
And you would not drink the water.
my husband, what I would.
Would you really not think about it? You're stuck. You don't have what to drink. There's no Poland Spring. There's no filter. You honestly wouldn't drink the water?
The tap water?
Yeah.
Oh, if I'm completely stuck,
Yeah, you
Like-
want to drink it.
like I have no water in the house.
Right. In other words, the case I'm talking about, the people that don't have a filter, they won't drink the water because it's treif. There's no option to drink the water. You understand?
Right,
So they hold that this water has a din of, it has a halacha that it's usher to drink. There's no option to drink it. So
If I was
therefore,
completely stuck, and
Yeah.
with no water in the house, and
I
I
would
was
go, I would
thirsty,
go a neighbor.
I would know,
you would go to a neighbor? I hear.
no, I
Okay.
would like, for that time being, for that instant, I would drink it.
You're saying, but you're saying in all fairness, I really would never drink it. There's almost no situation, no scenario
Not
that I would drink the,
necessarily
okay. So then in your case, you need to make sure that the filter is off.
that the filter is off.
Right.
No, like if I was stuck, I would drink it.
Yeah.
If there was no water, because you asked, if there was no water in the
But
house.
I got so used to the filter that if I drink the sink, I can't. It can't
Okay,
be
so-
done.
so
It's
it sounds
it's
like-
close.
So it
It's
sounds like
close.
in your case, you would need to make sure that your filter is off. And maybe in your case, because you would, if push comes to shove, you would drink it. So then you would,
If all of Shabbat I had no water, let's say like I didn't have water.
yeah,
And it was Shabbat and I was thirsty and I didn't have a water bottle and I
Right.
didn't have a filter,
you would drink from the
I
sink.
would end up drinking it.
Okay.
I would say, okay.
So that means
like,
that you're just trying to enhance,
It would
the water.
really like bother me, it would irk me, but I'm like, what am I gonna do right now?
okay,
I'm not gonna go knock on my neighbor's house.
okay. So you're just trying to enhance the water. So in that case, you could have the filter on. Okay, very good. Excellent. Let's continue.
Can I just ask? another
Yes.
question? So avocados, you
Okay.
don't keep a piece, you don't keep the peel on at all. You put in your salads, you have to also, avocado, you have to wait till the man makes sure to add it into your salad.
Same story.
Yeah.
Yeah, same story, exactly. A couple of more points over here. There's another halacha that's brought down by the Rosh, I believe, Rabbeinu Asher, which the Shulchan Aruch paskins, which is that it's important to realize that borer does not apply while you are drinking. So for example, or while you're eating, if let's say a person has some tea with nana leaves, people like to put nana leaves in their tea. Are you allowed to put nana leaves into tea? The answer is that as long as it's in a kli sheni, so it's okay because we hold that a kli sheni doesn't cook, but that's a different halacha. But let's say that you put your nana leaves into the tea, but you're worried about bugs in the nana leaves. So what people do is they would cover the cup with some kind of like a cloth. While they're drinking, it goes through the cloth. I don't know, it might get a little bit messy. I don't know how, I've never done it myself, but I've seen it brought down that that's what people do. Is that okay to do that, or is that considered an act of sifting that you don't want to let the bug come through and you're pulling the liquid out and separating from the bug? The answer is that being that you're doing this while you're drinking, it's not considered to be a melacha of sifting. Clear? Anything that it's considered, again, drinking. You can't call something an act of borer if you're doing it while you're drinking. Okay?
You don't want the leaf that has the bug, or you're saying the bug would come out of the leaf from the hot water?
You don't want the bug to come out of the leaf and go into your mouth, basically.
Oh,
That's why they put that cloth there. Obviously, I guess it would have been better if you checked the leaf before Shabbat. And
But are you allowed to do any bug checking?
so that's a great question. Let's talk about that. So the halacha says that on Shabbat, you are allowed, there's a very big difference between two things. The Mishnah Berurah says if you want to clean a vegetable, you may not put that vegetable into a bowl of water because the water will cause the water is basically like a tool. Remember we said you cannot use a funnel or a big bowl in order to separate things on Shabbat. The water is like a tool. And the water, when you put it into the water will cause a separation between the dirt and the little junk that's on it to flow to the top, and the potato or whatever it is you put down will stay on the bottom. So therefore, you cannot put things into a bowl, a big bowl of water, like any kind of fruit or vegetable, and do that on Shabbat. On the other hand, the poskim do say, Rav Moshe Feinstein alav hashalom brings a beautiful proof. And he says, we know the halacha sanctions washing dishes on Shabbat. A person is allowed, if he needs the dishes or he wants his house to be clean and presentable, he's allowed to wash the dishes on Shabbat. Now, wait a second. I've got some dirt and I've got some junk and I've got some things here that are definitely stuck, mixed to the plate. So how can I wash it? So Rav Moshe explains that so long as you're not putting it into a big bowl, so long as you're just rinsing it, like let's say underneath the faucet, that is not an act of borer, because it's not the water being used as a tool to bring the junk up and flow to the top. As long as you're pouring from the sink, from the faucet, that's okay. So for that reason, he held that it's permissible to wash any kind of fruit or vegetable that you feel might have some junk on it or something like that, and you need to wash it. He held that that's perfectly fine.
And you can cut the areas that you think could be affected.
Okay, that's a great question too.
That's what.
So the poskim. So far that was clear about the about washing versus inserting into water
So you can't put blueberries in a bowl of water.
to wash them.
Can you put it in a strainer?
You need to put. Okay, that's a great
That's
question
a
too.
tool.
That's a tool. So that's a problem, right? That's not okay.
So you.
So you simply wash them. Take them and wash them under the sink.
Like the-
Now, can you use your hands like a strainer too? That's also probably something that you shouldn't do.
But it's
Right?
your hands.
Well,
It's your hands.
what you could do is you could simply. You're right. Still, but it's like a tool.
Your hands.
Yes,
It's like.
it's like a tool.
Or you sip with
Right.
your hands. Okay.
Hand is okay when you use it just to take it and eat it, but not when you're using it to function as a tool.
So you just can't
So-
put any fruit or
so-
vegetable in a pool of water. And so.
Right. The point is, don't put it into a big bowl
In a
of
pool.
water. You can wash them. So what I do personally,
You're not allowed to.
I
swim
do
on
hold it
Shabbat.
in my hand, but I don't kind of use it as a strainer. I just wash them in my hand.
right.
Yes.
But how would you wash blueberries, cilantro, lettuce? How would you wash any of these?
You'd put it under the faucet. Turn on the faucet and
But that's not, you can't eat blueberries like that. You have to like soak it in soap for a certain amount of time and then like cut it in half and check it. like-
blueberries.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Since when?
I hear.
Wild.
According to the stuff, you know.
It's wild. It's wild.
I hear. I don't know. Wow. Okay, that's so you're saying okay. It's good. No, I'm glad you're telling
Okay,
it.
cilantro, you can't wash cilantro just running it under water. You have to.
So yeah, so if you need to do, so you're absolutely right. If what's required over here is more of a nitty-gritty method of cleaning, then you have to do that before Shabbat. We're talking about where all you would need to do is rinse it off, wash it, and that would be sufficient. But if you
So
wanna,
You can't wash greens on Shabbat.
you could, as long as it's not something that needs, like for example, I mean, maybe I'm very lenient, but I wouldn't have a problem. Let's say if I need lettuce, let's say, and I want to put it under the sink and check it. Technically, according to what we're learning now, it'd be okay. You should know, I did see that there are those that are machmir on this. I believe that there are some that are strict and they hold that it would be a problem because if there indeed is a bug, you're killing the bug. But as far as I know, there are those that are lenient because of the fact that, first of all, there's not necessarily any bug there. And like we said, you're rinsing. It's not an act of borer. So again, like you always said, there are different opinions, but from what I'm aware of, it's okay to, if that's all you need to do. But like I said, if you're actually putting it into the water, then the poskim really say that it is an act of borer, like the Mishnah Berurah says. So you got to watch out for that. Yes, indeed. If you think that more of a heavy-duty cleaning is required, then you would want to do that before Shabbat. Agreed.
It's like on celery, sometimes I see dirt and a bug, or sometimes I don't. But
Okay, there you go.
so if I see.
You're saying-
if I
Bug
see
is
that
already,
it's
the bug's
dirty,
already dead.
yeah, but I'm not concerned about killing, I'm talking about like,
So then you could put it under the faucet and wash it off.
okay, so that's not, so what's
Right.
the issue with the boiling water, that it's just a tool?
Correct. You're using a tool to do the water over there. When it's sitting there like that, it's as if you're like putting it through a tool to separate it, and that's a problem.
So it's not separating when you wash with your hands?
Yeah, and the proof that Rav Moshe brings, very interesting, is like washing dishes. You have to ask yourself a question: why isn't washing the junk off of dishes considered to be borer? Right? You're getting the bad stuff off the good. So he comes up with this beautiful chidush that simply rinsing something underneath a faucet, or in the case of whatever the Mishnah was talking about back then, where there were no faucets, maybe just pouring water on top of it and washing it that way is not considered to be an act of borer. It's rinsing. Therefore, it's okay. Yeah.
If you're feeding your child on Shabbat and you have a mixture of different food in the bowl,
Mhm.
and they say, no, I don't want the carrot.
Right.
And then so you take the carrot out with some of the rice, that's it.
Yeah. Oh,
And you
good.
put on the side, and they say, no, I don't want avocado. So again, it happens. So
Okay.
you just take a little bit of what they don't want with what they do want. You
Perfect.
just keep taking it out.
Perfect.
Instead of
Because
getting new bowls.
yeah, no, that's great because again, whenever you take some of the good together with the bad, you don't have a problem of borer. Yes.
Back to the avocado, if like, for example, like a little bit of the green stays in the peel, like it's fine, right?
If a little bit of that avocado itself stays with the peel, so you didn't separate, you kept it together.
Even if it's like a tiny bit, like we
Yeah,
can
you
scrape
kept-
it with a spoon and
You
eat it.
you kept some of the green on it, so it's still mixed together.
So based on that, we're never doing whatever.
I mean, not really. A banana, let's say there's no banana left on the peel. There's no orange left on the orange peel. It's just peel.
Yeah, but like all these.
But there are
like,
some vegetables where there is a little bit of the good left on it, so it's good.
Cucumber, all these things, avocado, like.
Where some of it's left, that would be okay. Okay, I want to discuss another question that comes up in the sink, and that is, what about the drain with those little nets on the bottom? You know what I'm talking about? That catch all the garbage and prevent it from going down the sink, going down the drain. So that the poskim say is okay. And again, the reason that that's okay is because remember, borer is the purpose of borer is to fix a mixture, right? When you have something that is undesirable, you want to get rid of it from that which is desirable, one way or another. Over here, everything that's coming down is undesirable. You just don't want part of that which is undesirable going into your drain, clogging it up. So that net that is there is actually considered to be fine because there is no good and bad. There is nothing good being separated and being fixed. It's just all garbage. So for that reason, it's considered to be fine. It's a good siman. Baruch Hashem. Beautiful. What? Right. So that stuff would be considered muktzeh. But even something which is muktzeh, if it's grossing you out, you're allowed to take it and throw it out. Understand? No, if it's gross to you, you could literally just take it and throw it out.
So
Okay? What? So eggshells, it has to be that it's gross to you. You understand? If it's gross to you, then you're allowed to take it and throw it away. Okay, excellent. Now, let's continue. Yes.
We said for like jalapenos and like peppers, the seeds, because it's the way of eating it, we can like remove that.
I'm sorry?
For like jalapeno
Yeah.
and peppers, like the seeds of it.
So we said that things like dates, fish, when you want to remove a fish bone, in order to eat the fish, chicken skin, chicken bones that are in your way, you can remove them and throw them out.
What about prepping them? Like
What?
if I'm prepping a jalapeno in like my guacamole, for example. So now I separate it, so now it has to be.
So you want to be able to get to the jalapeno, and the seeds are in the way. So according to the Ben Ish Chai, technically you'd be allowed to scoop it out.
Well, people like seeds, like we don't like seeds. Like some people choose to keep the seeds in for jalapeno to keep it spicy.
As far as I know, Ben Ish Chai held that you're allowed to take the pit out of a date and throw it out because that's called derech achila. You're allowed to take the bones out of the fish because that's how you get to the fish. So it would make sense over here that this is how you would eat the vegetable. If you decide that you want to just take the good from the bad, right, and take the good part of the jalapeno and just leave behind the seeds, that's also an easy solution, no?
Yeah, but then I would be like my issue is like if I have to eat it now or like
Okay,
prep it for
so
later.
you want to not even do, you want to leave some of the good with the bad. You didn't even separate it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, leave a little bit of it attached to the good stuff, and there's an easy solution. Yeah. Yes.
So let's say like you put all the different meats on a tray and then you want to put them back in.
Oh, that's a good question. Very good. So you have a big mixture of different meats. And now you made the mixture of meats. Now you want to sort it for later. That's a great question. So over here, the opinion of the Mishnah Berurah is that it's a problem. The reason is because you're sorting it for later. When you do that, in other words, you're separating, but you're not separating for right now. You're separating for later. That's a problem.
But for right now, it's
You
fine.
understand? What? So you should know there's a great rabbi, his name is the Pri Megadim, and he just said what you said. He argued. He said, no, that's not correct because there's no good, there's no bad. They're both good. Everything's good. The Pri Megadim said exactly what you said, but the Mishnah Berurah had different proofs that argued on him. And that's why some are strict about that. So even if you have everything good, if it's not being done for right now, it's a problem, according to this opinion. So better to try and just keep it a mixture till after Shabbat and then deal with it. Same thing applies to forks and knives that come in a mixture. Big mixture of forks, knives, spoons, and you want to put each one back in the right spot. So now you have a problem technically, according to what we're learning now, because you're separating for later. That's why every Shabbat by me afterwards I'm left with this big pile of spoons, forks, and knives. And then so according to the Pri Megadim, you could, but according to the Mishnah Berurah that argued, you have a problem. Understand? So it's a machloket. Yeah.
Can you do a puzzle? Can your children do a puzzle on Shabbat?
Okay, it's a different question. One second. That's different.
It's not like
Let's stick to
borer.
Borer. Let's stick to Borer right now. It's not
selective.
really. It's not really. It's a different question of coloring, making a picture, which
Like
is a
you're
separate issue.
using, like, something.
Yeah. No, it's not a Borer question as far as I know. Okay, good question. Good question. Let's get there in just a second. We'll try and finish up soon. The next question I wanted to address is the slotted spoon. Okay, slotted spoon is a very interesting question. The reason for the question is because when you have a slotted spoon, that spoon is able to get rid of liquids that seep right out of it. They just kind of run right off of it, and you're able to maintain the solids on the top of it, right? So the question is that considered an act of borer or not? So the answer is it's going to depend on whether or not you had in mind to separate. If you are having in mind to use this tool to separate between the liquid and the solid, for example, a very watery cholent, and you don't want it to be so liquidy on your plate, so you use the slotted spoon with the intention of separating from the beans, the barley, the meat, and all that juice. You just want that juice to come right out. So you're using this spoon intentionally to separate. That would be borer with a tool, even though you're taking the good from the bad, but it's still using a tool, so that's a problem. Now, on the other hand, if let's say your intention is not to separate, but your intention is to simply grab the food, the result of the food the result is that the liquid is going to be coming out of the slotted spoon, right? So, but over here you didn't have it in mind. So there, some poskim are much more lenient, and the reason is because of the fact that to begin with, even if you do have it in mind, it's only rabbinic because it's not a sieve, it's not a sifter, it's a slotted spoon. So it's the category 2 level of tools, which are only rabbinic. And if this fellow doesn't even have in mind that he wants to do that, and he doesn't even care that the liquid's coming out because he likes the liquid, it's not a problem for him. So then you say that it's okay for him to do it. Somebody wants to be strict on it, then he deserves to be blessed. But again, if your intention is simply to take food and you don't mind the liquid, you don't mind that it's there, and you're not trying to separate. So there are those that are lenient. The Yalkut Yosef is lenient. You have what to rely on. But no question about it, if you are intentionally going ahead and using the slotted spoon in order to separate, that is a problem. Okay. Borer also applies to non-foods. Person has a big mixture of clothing, big pile of clothing, all mixed up one in the other. Now you go ahead and you say, this one, let's get all these, I don't know, pink shirts out of here. I don't like these pink shirts, right? So now you're getting the psolet out of the ochel. That's no good. You can't do that on Shabbat. But what you can do, of course, is you could take the shirt that you do want and use it for right now. It's taking the good from the bad and using it. Same thing when it applies to books. You could have a big pile of books, one on top of the other. Kids left all the different, books in a huge pile, and it's not stacked up nicely. It's just all in a mess. And you want to take out all of the, can't say it, the Chaim Walder books, Chevy Shmo, right? You want to take out all of the Chevy Shmo, that's it. Get rid of all those books. Okay, fine. So you get rid of that. It's psolet mitoch ochel, right? That's a problem. That's borer on Shabbat, right? So that's an issue. But you could take the book that you want. Right? You can take the book that you want and use it for now. Rav Moshe gives a nice suggestion. He says what you could do is you could take a look at each book and hold it, say, oh, is this the one I want? And you start to use it for a minute and then put it away. And the next book, oh, is this the one I want? And you use it for a minute and put it away. So now you took what you want because you wanted to see this book. You wanted to see if this is a book that is good for you or not. So it's like each book becomes the ochel. Each book becomes the one that you're looking for. So if
You're
you
not
want,
allowed to say that you want these Shabbat books and not these books. Like, let's say
you're allowed to say you
bookcase.
want these Shabbat books and
Say
take the
bookcase.
Shabbat books for now. But you
From a
cannot say,
bookcase.
I don't want those other books and get rid of them, because that would be so that mitoch ochel.
What if you want to put them all away and you know that these books go here and these books go here? Like my kids. like,
Yes,
was,
so you should know that I always thought it was a problem. I believe there are still many who do believe it's a problem. But I did see, if I'm not mistaken, the Yalkut Yosef say that it's permissible. Give me a second, and I will show you what I'm talking about.
Is it better not to? Like to put it all in like one little like box?
Or even toys, doesn't need books.
What?
Yeah, but every.
Okay, I'll just read you the words. He says here, it is permissible for the officers of the synagogue to collect all the prayer books and chumashim scattered after the congregation has left and to arrange them in the proper shelves on Shabbat. Doesn't really explain it, but he is explaining that it is considered to be okay. I must tell you another just important rule. Remember one thing. If each item is isolated, and you can individually see each thing, right? There's a book here, there's a book there, there's a book over here. Or the same thing for let's say, forks and knives. There's a fork, knife. They're all scattered. Remember, that's not called a mixture. And there's no problem of borer there whatsoever. You could take one thing and put it away for later. There's no mixture. Remember that. You can even do that if you want to. In other words, you could, let's say, take something that's mixed, and you could, it's an interesting solution, and just kind of spread it all out. And now here's a fork, here's a knife, here's a spoon. No mixture. Understand? It's all just individually scattered. So if I have a book here, a book there, a book here, and a book there, but I can see each book individually, it's not a mixture.
But if the book is next to it.
Right, but if we're talking about like a pile of books in a mess, right? That's a mixture. Pile of clothes in a mess, right? Correct?
We're allowed to push that.
I believe so.
Wait, can you gather it?
Right? So here the question is, I gathered a mess. Can I now undo that?
No, the books, let's say you have like a bunch of blue books, red books, yellow books. They're all separated and scattered. And you want to put all the yellow books away. Can you go take the yellow book?
Yes, sure. Because there's no mixture. There's no mixture, so it's no problem. So I'm just trying to drill home the foundation here, which is that borer only applies to mixtures. If it's not a mixture, there's no borer. Okay.
It's not
We have
considered
one last question. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like separating something that you do not want to. I don't know. I think like for sorting, you have yellow books and blue books in it. And you just want to put the yellow books in the bin and the blue books in the bin, or like toys. Yellow toys. Let's say you have Legos in your hand, like animal toys or something, and you just want to put it in the bin. So is that like?
That's no problem because you're keeping it mixed. Just keeping it mixed in a bin.
Putting it.
Oh, you're sorting it. That's this question, but that's a big debate. So some hold that that's okay, but the Mishnah Berurah says that you shouldn't do it.
But it's not like it's good for the bad.
Again, if it's individually scattered, and you can see, okay, this is a transformer. That's a car. That's a police car. I don't know. There's this, there's that. There's all these different things, right? So then you see, okay, that's individual stuff. So I can take this and put it here. I can take that, put it there. Why? Because there's no mixture. But if it's in a big mess of stuff, now you're sorting. It's a problem. That's exactly the question. So that's the big machloket between the Pri Megadim and the Mishnah Berurah. Correct. Okay. Are we good?
What class number is
Okay, we're gonna stop over here. Tizkule Mitzvot. Thanks for joining us tonight. If we have any other questions, more than welcome to ask.